So, hello everyone. Welcome to the session of i4C Leadership Talks for Smart School Hackathon Goa edition. So, today we have with us a very distinguished person, Sri Ninad Takpere. Let me add him. So, Ninad is a serial entrepreneur with a successful exit, and he is a startup specialist having the distinction of exploring new markets, managing business operations independently through a customer centric approach. He has great experience in managing large scale business operations, starting from product, technology, business development, digital marketing to operations. So, academically, he's a postgraduate in business management and entrepreneurship, and he's a qualified mechanical engineer. So, he has worked with various reputed companies like Recharge, Times, Times Internet Limited, Rediff.com, and GE. So, today he's going to address the student on go to market strategy during this post pandemic period. So, welcome, sir.
Yeah,
So without
thanks.
further
Thanks.
ado, maybe.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Sneh. And first of all, let me thank i4C for giving me this opportunity to talk to students and folks who are working on different startup ideas, not startup ideas, but hackathon ideas, right? I have been given to understand that there have been quite a few bright projects which are being worked upon and which are there towards final stage of touches. Here, I'm there to give you some bit of practical gyan around what needs to be there in terms of go-to-market strategy as such. But I'll be more than happy to answer your questions in terms of what you're working on and how any kind of tidbits from my side of it with limited experience that I have, where I could add value to you guys. Yeah. More than theoretical knowledge of it, I guess you guys are pretty young to work on large problems that you're currently working on the hackathon piece of it. For me, go to market strategy is a very broad level term, right? You being very young, you may not want to get into the technicalities as such, but it's a fairly a simple way of looking at having a plan in place to take your product to the market, right? That's as simple as that. But before that, I guess one needs to be very wary of the fact that every product would not be a perfect product to take it to the market at the first place, right? You need to understand what the set of problems or kind of problem that you're trying to address, whether the solution which you have built is appropriate, is it the most efficient solution that you have brought in to solve that particular problem of the end consumers. So for that, you typically need to validate as to what you have built, right? That's normally is called as product market fit in startup parlance. Product market fit typically is most recommended by every for every entrepreneur by every entrepreneur as such, where you need to understand what the problem statement has been that you have been toying around with, what has been the solution that you have built, whether that solution has been the most efficient one or not. In order to validate that particular aspect, obviously you need to build a very small prototype. That prototype could be a stripped down product of your offering. It may not have all the features, all the kind of glamour attached to it, but it could be a very basic fundamental working model of what you intend to do, right? That could have multiple mechanisms, right? It could be the product that you envisage and want to take it to the market and should be used by the consumer. A very smaller version of it, or it could be a very base version of that particular product, or it could be simply in digital terms. In case if you're building a mobile application, instead of building a maybe a native Android application, you could simply build a one pager website to seek interest from the prospective customer, whether they are clearly finding this particular problem or not, or whether they are happy with the kind of solution which you are proposing for them or not, whether they will be wanting to use something of this kind of solution or not, right? Those kind of aspects that you need to cover it before even going to take your product to the market. I assume you guys have been working on very hard on your solution and building a prototype around it. But for me, if at all I need to suggest, or if I take that liberty to recommend you, please get the validation done beforehand. Most of the companies, most of the product managers, they surprise with the end result when they take the product to the market. And almost, it's nothing to discourage you, but almost above 90% of the products they fail when they are taken to the market, primarily because they haven't been validated with the idea, validated with the solutions that have been built by the ones who are building it, right? Which is appropriate or which is most efficient in that sense. Customers have got really high expectations when you take the product or give it to them in their hands for them to toy around or use it. So best way to understand whether what you have built is going to be useful, or is it anywhere closer to what the customer expectations are, is typically to prototype and get that validated from small base of user. It need not have to be hundreds of the user, depending upon the kind of market size that you're targeting. You may want to have a very small sample set, which could be your own friends, your own relatives, your own family members who are who are facing some kind of difficulties that you are trying to solve, right? And way to understand whether your idea or the solution which you have built is fairly validated to a certain extent is by understanding whether you are able to get those key metrics in place, right? Broadly, one needs to understand whether there are how many percentage of customers they are willing to use your product, right? Or maybe they have signed up for your product. Suppose it's a mobile app and you have tested it out for validation purpose, and you have given an early access to set of users. Out of say 100 users that you have given an early access based on their email address, how many people are actually downloading that particular app from Play Store and signing it up for that, right? That could be one way of looking at it, whether they are genuinely interested in something like that. Maybe then you could figure out whether what kind of retention that you are able to get. You can build cohorts around weekly or monthly returning users, right? Which is very simple. Managing 100 users as a sample set is very very simple. You can typically create a Google spreadsheet if at all you have a Gmail access or Google Suite access. Create a simple spreadsheet, put in their names or numbers or email addresses, and say that this particular person or this particular customer of mine, he had installed my app or signed up for my application, or he has bought my product as a sample product, and he has come back again after a week or after a month, right? Kind of. So you may have fair understanding about if your product has been given it to the customer, whether they will buy or take your product, and foremost whether they would be able to come back to you or not. Every business is all about retention of customers. If they are not going to come back to you at a set frequency, there's no business. Finding new customers, it's all the more difficult all the time, and you can't really take the leaky buckets all the time with you, where you need to find new customers all the while, right? It's not the business, or it's not the kind of product that you should be envisaging. And thirdly, you should look at the kind of engagement the users have, right, or your customers have. Are they liking your product? Are they talking about your product? Are they giving you feedback? Are they liking some features but not liking others, right? Kind of things. So I believe most of the ideas that are there on hackathon are largely digital in nature. Either those are for the customers or for the citizens or the users who are facing a set of problems, and they, if given an opportunity, a solution, whether they would be wanting to use it or not, right? So those kind of points that you must validate even before taking your product to the market to a larger base of your potential customers. Yeah. uh, am I going too fast or too slow? You can ping me on the chat out here. I should be able to get to understand your feedback on this. Though it is very theoretical, I would love to make it more interesting as such, but your feedback is very important in that sense. Yeah, thanks for that. Let's talk about what is go-to-market strategy, right? I briefly mentioned in the beginning that go-to-market strategy is nothing but it's a basic plan, right? For you to launch your product or take your product to the market, to the set of customers which you feel they are your potential customers, or the kind of geography that you intend to launch your product is something that you need to make it as a plan. That plan needs to be very crystal clear for you to understand that who is my customer, which is the geography that I'm targeting, what kind of value proposition which I have about the product, which gives them as a solution, or what kind of pricing I should be having about the product, whether it should be paid or free, and what channels of distribution I should be using. So let me delve into the clear aspects of it, right? So every go-to-market strategy of yours need to have really five core aspects woven together. These four aspects, these five aspects needs to be entangled with each other. They should be talking to each other, right? That means there has to be a plan which should talk about what the key aspect is and how the end result is supposed to look like. Let me talk to you about those five, right? First and foremost, it's a target market, right? Every product needs to have a clear target market. The target market is nothing but a clear definition of who your targeted customer is, right? Simply said, you must dissect as to geographically, demographically, psychologically, and a couple other variables that you should look at as to who could be the customer who would fit into this particular problem which you are trying to solve or trying to give as a solution. This will certainly help you create the potential customer persona, right? And that is typically very important for you to not go full hog on across mass market level and target anyone and everyone out there in the specific geography, right? You should have a very focused approach around who your target customer is or target market is. Just to cite an example in a startup parlance, maybe you guys must have heard of app called Swiggy, right? Swiggy does food deliveries. Yeah, so Swiggy, for that matter, their target customer is anybody who's between age 18 to 35 years, right? Fairly a young population, millennials, so to say, who have got access to a smartphone and they've been fluent in using mobile apps and wanting to get services fulfilled necessarily digitally, right? So those are the kind of that's the kind of target audience which Swiggy would want to chase after, and it's fairly a large market, right? Swiggy has been doing an outstanding job in terms of getting more and more of such kind of customers on their application and serving them better. Why Swiggy may not want to go to something like a rural area and that to older people who don't even understand how the mobile app needs to be used, primarily because they are very crystal clear about who their target customer is, right? Who their target audience is. So it makes your life much easier when you understand as to who your target customer is, so that entire of your approach, entire of your activities, entire of your initiations about anything that you talk about your product is pretty much directed towards that particular segment, that particular target market in itself, right? Now, let me delve into the second aspect of your go to market strategy, what it needs to be. It needs to be the value proposition that you're building, right? The customer should be appealed with the kind of solution that you have, and that should solve something for him necessarily. And out of which, after getting that particular product offering, he should either feel that he's saving time, or he is saving money, or he is improving health, and so forth, right? there has to be some gains out of what solution that you are giving it to the consumer. In simple terms, right? The value proposition for product like an FMCG product, maybe something like, say, everyone would be using Dettol, right, these days, and quite a few of you have been using Dettol for a long time. Dettol's value proposition is Dettol, the liquid, which all of us we use for hand wash. Now it is there for sanitization and all, right? So Dettol says that their value proposition is Dettol kills 99% of germs, right? Which is so very simple and so very straightforward. While anybody would want to use Dettol or is being shown Dettol, the customer would know for the fact that after using Dettol, 99% of the germs on my hands after washing with Dettol will be killed. Right? As simple as that. So you need to have a clear value proposition about what you're offering or what your product is all about for the end consumer. The end consumer should be able to know exactly what he's supposed to be gaining out of using your product. Third aspect of it, which is very very interesting, I'm not very sure how important it could be there for the kind of hackathon projects that you guys have been trying to do. But for general information and knowledge, you should remember that your go to market plan needs to necessarily have a pricing strategy, right? The pricing strategy is nothing but what is it that you need to offer the product at a price for to the end consumer. This you should define it by depending upon what kind of target market that you have derived, what kind of positioning, that value proposition that you have built and positioning that you have for your product, and the kind of affordability the end customer may be having, right? Everyone would not be wanting to spend maybe 100 rupees for the kind of solution that you have. Maybe the cost of your product could be, say, 25 rupees. You can price that particular product at maybe a marked up price of maybe 20% of margin with you, and at maybe 40 rupees. My math is not correct here, but for general perspective, you need to price your product appropriately based on the affordability of the target audience that you have or target customer that you have, and the market in which you are trying to operate in. The product could be free also, right? It's not necessarily that the product needs to have a price. The price could be of the product could have no price at all. The offering could be free. A lot of socialistic product which are being offered are free of cost, or a lot of partnership which you get into, the offering could be free. There could be ways to make money out of your offering eventually. But yeah, one needs to understand that the core aspect within your go-to-market plan needs to be the pricing strategy. Whether you want to price it or you don't want to price it, but there has to be the element which you should toy around before taking the product to the market. Obviously, the most important aspect of it is the distribution plan, right? No matter what you have built as a product offering, whether it is extraordinarily good or not, right? There has to be a distribution aspect of it. You need to be able to sell the product or push the product towards your target customers in an appropriate way through an appropriate channel, which could be most efficient as you feel like, right? So do look at as to how you should be able to channelize your product towards the target customers that you have. Have a plan around it. Your distribution plan needs to have a very hard number in terms of number of customers that you are setting up for the goal, right? Saying that I would want to reach out to 1,000 users, customers, or buyers, which are prospective in nature, right, within a specific timeline. And for reaching out those 1,000 customers, I will use a very direct channel, which is like going to each of them and talking about my product and handing over my product to them. That could be a direct way of approaching. There could be an indirect way of doing it, right? I'll get into maybe a very very base level of marketing of my product. Maybe take the product digitally by creating a Facebook page, by creating awareness and stuff like that. Or maybe I can simply broadcast the value proposition and tidbits about my product on various WhatsApp groups around the geography that I'm wanting to reach out to. Or maybe I could get into to a partnership wherein someone has got a distribution network already there in terms of reach of the customer, I would say. And I will say I'll request or I'll have a partnership, commercial, non-commercial, whichever is true, and try and promote my product or offering through that particular channel. So channels could be different, but most importantly, one needs to have a distribution plan as to how the product could be reached out to the set of customers that you intend to reach out to, right? Either it could be digital, it could be physical, it could be hybrid, it doesn't really matter, right? But go to market strategy and within having to have a distribution plan, something works the best, I would say, is a referral, right? If there is a word of mouth about your own product or offering, and there are customers, early customer of yours are talking about your own product to their own friends and families, it's the best way of distributing your product in early time, right, of yours. Maybe this will give you the core early adopters to your product in a way. And obviously, the fifth most important aspect of it could be the timeline, right? One should not really dodge on this particular aspect as such. You need to have a very, very concrete timeline around how things needs to be shaped up within a given time frame. So these are the five aspects. I'll just try and summarize this. Maybe your target market as to who your customer is, you need to define it clearly. Value proposition as to what you intend to offer to the consumer and what the consumer will gain out of your offering. Third being pricing strategy, whether you want to sell it for free or sell it at a price. What is that particular price that you intend to offer it to the end consumer? Distribution plan, as I spoke about, and timeline, right? So go-to-market strategy necessarily needs to have these five at least, right? Five is the best, I would say. You may intend to have other variables around this, but yeah, you ideally need to go with a plan which will talk about a very clearly defined goal and whom you are targeting to, right? With a clear proposition in mind, whether you are selling it for free or not, and how you are able to reach the customer, broadly speaking. Uh, this is like more of a theoretical understanding about what happens, right? In real time, the go-to-market plan within a stipulated time frame that you intend to push it across your product to the kind of audience that you intend to have may change during the time. So don't really worry about it. Course correcting some of the early mistakes is something which is very important for you. So whenever you are doing building that particular plan and then trying to execute this particular plan as while you take your product to the market, don't worry about other aspect. Fine tune that particular plan as and when you move forward, and get the best goal outcome across whatever you feel it's appropriate, right? I'm here to talk about a little more on go-to-market strategy, how it is supposed to be looking like, or what has happened in the recent past, which is making all the marketeers or all the product managers across globe to think differently, right? It's a straightforward thing which all of us have gone through, right? I could say there are very few people who haven't got impacted due to the pandemic that we have faced. It's been almost a year, more than a year globally, and almost a year that in India that we are facing this particular pandemic. Things have changed, and things have changed for bad as well as for good, right? There have been a lot of impact which has happened to all the citizens, but at the same time, it has created a lot of different kind of outlook towards things, and by and large, it has impacted businesses big time, right? And a lot of businesses have taken a different stance. A lot of new entrants have taken a different strategy altogether. A lot of people are seeing this as an opportunity than that of a problem, right? Every challenge is an opportunity to do something different or do something more and give something special. So during and post pandemic, I see a lot of things which are changing. Obviously, a lot of people couldn't go to office, right? Most of us. Uh, you guys being there in the schools, you have been attending online schools and online classes, right? It has changed dramatically. The school teachers have been facing a lot of challenges in terms of how to conduct a class, right? Now, after like last 6 or 7 months, they have been equipped to understand how efficiently it needs to be done. But yeah, it has been a sea change in terms of how things have shaped up in last 1 year or so. Same is the case for businesses, I would say. The go-to-market strategy for any new product or any new product variant or any product in a different market, for that matter, has changed dramatically because consumers are not there physically present outside, right? Where you can go talk to them and hand over your product, or you can do a media burst outside and make people aware of it. Everyone is pretty much in house. Everyone is pretty much looking at things which are otherwise were not looked at, right? Maybe mobile as a device has been the center of everything now. Few of us, we have been fortunate enough to have our desktops or laptops and stuff like that, right? As devices to interact, communicate, and do our work. But large janta out here is pretty much they have been totally focused on their own mobile phones. The mobile phone has taken away most of their time now. Coming to the situation which is there, which have changed for businesses, it's no more an outside selling now, right? It's pretty much inside selling. Earlier, people used to go talk to their prospective customers and sell it. Now it's no more, right? It has changed dramatically. It has become a sales team, for that matter. It has been compelled over a period of last a year or so to generate their own leads, to generate their own prospects and sign contracts without even meeting the prospect customer in person. You look at the banks, for that matter, or insurance companies, for that matter, they have been dealing with this kind of situation day in day out, and thankfully, a lot of companies have come out successfully out of it. Right, that they could do a lot of things digitally, and they could reach out to consumers where they are, right, without really spending so much of effort and energy and time. They could find out appropriate channels in terms of reaching the customers. Obviously, there has been lag in terms of generating the kind of business volumes which earlier pre-pandemic period which was there, but gradually it is looking brighter. Right, there is a new way of doing things more efficiently. On other side, I guess consumers have been being there in house all the time, working from home and not going out, taking the risk of their lives. They are pretty much out there within their homes, and with that, while their needs are ongoing, they have been researching their own purchase decisions more online now. Earlier, it used to happen, but it is happening even more, right? Even before purchasing anything, rather than going and looking out and hunting it down in an offline environment in a retail segment, they're trying to research it even more and trying to figure it out where it is available online and how I can get it delivered home, right? So selling outside has become ag- negligible, I would say, and inside selling is happening more and more now, right? Second aspect of maybe is the marketeers who have been challenged around things, right? Earlier, there have been so many newspaper advertisements which you could get on day-to-day basis. I'm not very sure the kind of generation you are, whether you read newspapers or not, but yeah, so many newspapers have gone out of business, right? Or they have been compelled to shut down a lot of non-revenue generating editions, which has been a very bad situation to be in for a print media. So is the case for outdoor billboard and hoarding kind of companies. A lot of companies of such media are struggling big time, right? While they never moved from traditional media message. So the marketeers are also in a lot of struggle. not having the traditional channels to advertise, market their product. Now, world has moved towards online marketing, right? It has been a savior during pandemic, and all the brands, all the marketers are thrusting even more the marketing channel which is online in nature, right? Social media, for that matter, or uh, digital media in general has been buzzing with so many product offerings all the while, right? It chases you down wherever you go across web, whether you are accessing a news website or you're watching a YouTube video. The brands will chase you down everywhere, right? Kind of thing. So that has changed dramatically in last 1 year's time, and that seems to be impacting a whole lot of other industries like offline medium or offline media, and digital is going as a first channel for all the marketers to attempt to market their own products. Obviously, the spending power of the consumers has gone down or reduced during the pandemic and post-pandemic also, for various reasons. A lot of people, they lost their employment, or uh, they've got salaries cut down due to their corporate policies and stuff. But at the same time, the customers who already had a lot of spending power with them, potentially they reduced it because of the behavioral change which has happened. They have been there in house, sitting and working from home, not much to go out, not much of luxury spend which has been happening, right? And there has been very bare essentials which people started buying, and they kept their necessities well within limits. So that has given a very different outlook towards luxury brands or luxury products or luxury offerings to go and look at opportunity in mass market scale, right? And look at who are the potential customers whom they can target with a different offering, whether they can build a differentiation within the offering which could have immunity as one of the key proposition, right? Or something which has got healthiness, which is a key offering within there. So you would have seen a lot of products which otherwise, like for that matter, shirts which have been sold earlier as good fit or bad fit. Yeah, but there have been, I could see an advertisement of a very popular brand which is talking about immunity shirt as a range, right? So marketers or brands have gone into a level where they would want to give a different proposition altogether for the consumer, which is appropriate in nature during this particular pandemic period. Uh, Talking about like traditional customer support, customer service, which has been like calling up the call center or walking into the customer support offices of different companies, that has gone, right. Nobody was allowed to do so, and that's why a lot of brands, a lot of companies, they could quickly devise a self-service platform or self-service offering where consumers could post their own queries and get their resolutions done digitally, or maybe within the limited scope of addressing those questions or difficulties or problems over phone, they could allow the or ask or suggest the consumers to download the mobile application of theirs, so that most of their queries or problems could get solved digitally over their mobile applications itself, right. So is the case for communication, right? While all of us, we have been habituated to call up anyone and everyone, right? For that matter, or text someone or other. But so is the case has been there for companies, for marketeers. uh, Everyone now has changed their way of communicating to the end consumers. WhatsApp has become a prominent channel now. Facebook Messenger has become a prominent channel now in terms of reaching out to the consumers and trying to fulfill their demands or trying to address their queries, or if at all they have any kind of difficulties using the products. So world has changed in post. I wouldn't say that pandemic is over, but the habits are going to stay, or the behavior of consumers is going to stay for a slightly longer time even after pandemic. So as a company, as a startup, as a brand, as a marketeer, as a product manager, if at all you are trying to build your product or offer it to the consumers in a way they would want to accept, You need to think about these aspects clearly when you're trying to build your go-to-market strategy, right? Gone are the days that you need to figure out very, very straightforward marketing strategy, saying that I can go out and talk to the customers and hand over my product to them, right? Or I can put up my product out there in a retail store and expect the consumers to walk in and buy it. It's not happening, or it may not happen to the extent it used to happen pre-pandemic stage, right? So one needs to be wary of the fact that behaviors which have changed in 1 year period, last 1 year period, are going to stay the way it is, right? Or it may change. It will take another. It will take some more time for the consumers to change back their behavior and come back to the earlier stage which they used to be. Which I perceive it's not likely to happen as soon. So your go-to-market strategy needs to be around the way the consumer behavior currently is, or it is likely to be in near future. So these are the aspects which I wanted to talk to you while you're participating in the hackathon as such, and you're trying to give final touches to your product. Maybe this kind of gyan, which is very practical in nature, which I have been adopting my own self in multiple of my product startups which I've done, and I've taken a lot of products to the market in successful way. Having said that, I should not say that all the attempts which I had made personally or within my organization as a team, right, have been successful. We have failed multiple times, and that's good to happen, right? If you fail, that's the most learning that you will get out of what you should not be doing, or how you should be doing differently. So don't really worry about whether you fail. If you fail within your go to market strategy while you take your product to the market, and consumers they don't adopt, or you don't get any kind of traction, don't really get bogged down by that kind of failure. Learn from there as to what kind of mistakes have happened, what typically has gone wrong into it. Could it have been done differently, or in a much better manner? Adopt that particular approach, revisit your go to market strategy during it, and then take that particular different approach and take your product to the market, right? So it's going to be the go to market strategy would be a very, very stipulated small term or other short term plan that you'll delve into it. But there is immense amount of learning that you will get out of your attempt to take your product to the market, and that early learning will typically help you shape up your product offering much better, to take it to the larger audience, to the larger markets, in total way forward within your company journey or your product journey, so to say, right? So I had all this gyan around it. Maybe I was able to speak in the language that you could understand, and didn't use too much of jargon. Maybe if at all I did so, please pardon me. You're the first audience which is so very young that I'm trying to speak to, and that too in a very, very monologue as such so far. So I'll be more than happy to answer your questions if at all you have. If you didn't understand any of the aspect as such, please send your questions out here. I've been waiting for some of the questions here. Yeah, thanks so much on this, and I look forward to see your questions now within the chat. Yeah, is there i4C team here? Sneha, can you hear me? Hello?